Alright traders, welcome back. It is now day 15 in which we wrap up, the entering, the exiting, and the targeting. And today we're going to work over the targeting, and then in the last couple of videos we'll discuss some internal versus external work and things like that, as well as the extension dip. So once you're risk-free, taking profit is always the next goal. And so what you need to remember is getting risk-free is actually your priority over targeting. And so once you're risk-free, your next goal is always going to be to take profit. Obviously, we can't make money just getting stopped out at break even every time. We need to make money. And the only way to make money is to have a take profit set. And so every trade setup that you find, you're going to have a defined entry, a defined stop, and target level. Now, typically speaking, take profit levels are pretty easy to find, and people do not have as much trouble with them as just in general just finding the sequence. And so finding the sequence is going to be the most difficult part of this entire section, and really the last like 5 or 6 days. The most difficult part for you guys should be just finding the sequence. It should not be actually entering the trade. So finding the sequence is what you should be focusing on, because once you do that, as you know, we're just looking at some numbers. And so to take profit, really all we're doing in a nutshell is looking for the full extension of one time frame higher than the entry. And so you're paying attention to the wider picture. And this plays a lot into the extension dip trade, which is a big deal, which we'll talk about soon in another video to come. But other than measuring out to the full extension, which is the 100 level, and targeting that, the only variable is if your risk reward is extremely good, like it's a 1 to 10 risk reward ratio, you may target the 61.8 rejection and make sure your risk reward ratio is good. Once again, back to risk reward ratio, very simple to make sure you know what it is. All you have to do is type in your reward in a calculator and then divide it by your risk in a calculator. And if it equals more than 2, greater than 2 as I say, that's when you can take the setup. That's when you can go after the setup. Okay, and so in this case, if you have it and it spits out a 10, you're targeting 1,000 pips for a stop of 100. Might be a good idea to actually lower your target and target your 61.8 extension, because the odds of it heading to your level without any correction and potentially stopping you out of break even is much higher when it's that high of a risk reward ratio. Now this one is something we'll talk about in a minute, but target speculation is always fine as long as it's adjusted upon confirmation, meaning you'd actually be guessing where the target will be. And I don't want to really talk about that too much because I do have a picture example to show you so you can get an idea of that. So let's look at the first example of it. And so in this case, what we have is, from a target standpoint, this is a daily time frame. We're going to look to enter off of the 4-hour, and we're entering off of this swing. So I'm looking for that 100 level off of that little swing, but overall for targeting I need to zoom out and look at what it's overall doing. So what I notice is the market starts here, gets to this point, pulls back till here. Okay, once it pulls back to this point, the 100 level is there. This swing is equal to this swing. So you're targeting the overall 100 level. What we've been talking about the last couple of days is actually all involved in here. We're zooming in then, and this is where we look for our entry, which you see here, as well as your stop loss level, which you see there. Those are all based off of that internal entry zone. And so this kind of gets a little bit into that internal versus external. But your goal is to find a measurement where you have a select origin, you have a select 1, you have a 1 that's broken, and a select 2. Once you have these points, your 100 level is always going to be your target. And as I mentioned, you can target the 61.8 if you like, if your risk reward is fine. And as you can see, the 61.8 risk reward is probably just fine in this example as well. So what you want to do is get in the habit of zooming out. And that's one of the things that I talk about with a lot of people through one-on-one consulting and things. Zoom out, zoom out, zoom out. The more you can zoom out, the better, because you can see the overall picture that much easier, and you can reach out and target that 100 level. Okay, so once again, this is your origin, this is your 1, This is your 2. That's your target. And then you zoom into here to take a look at your entry. The market in here is bearish, but the overall direction is bullish. All right. So if I go in and when I talk about speculative entries now, before we get into our last few segments here, the speculative entry is very similar. All it is this. Here's our origin. Here's our 1. Has the 1 been broken yet? The answer is no. Based off of speculation, if we get down to this point here, this buy limit, this could be origin, this could be 1, this could be 2, and the 100 level would be here, or the 6018 would be here, 100 level would be here. As you can see, the 6018 had a very good risk-reward ratio, which is why it chose that. And what if we go back and look at the slide, it says target speculation is fine as long as it's adjusted upon confirmation. All that means is that in speculation for your target, your 1 has not been broken yet at all. All that means is it's adjusted once this 1 is broken. So once that 1 point gets broken, that's when you can go ahead and adjust your target. Now typically from a speculative standpoint, your target will not be adjusted, a lot. It's not going to be adjusted. It's a crazy adjustment. It's going to be a minor adjustment, but speculating is fine. So this is an example of a speculative targeting, if you want to write that down. This is just an example of, I don't even know how to put a word on it. It's just, it's correct. We have a correct origin. We have a 1 that's been broken. We have a 2, and we're looking for a 3. And so, this brings us into both internals and extension dip trades. And once those are taught to you guys, it's all together. That's really it. And what you have to do is then start to find these situations in the market with me in the live room. And once you see me do it in the live room, then you're going to be able to really do it on your own. So once again, that's probably the shortest video we've had so far. This is all about targeting. And make sure that you understand targeting. Make sure you understand the 100 level. And we'll practice that. So I'll see you guys in day 16.